All right, we are going to be doing Module 2, Lesson 8. We're going to spend some more time practicing adding and subtracting rational numbers, basically fractions and decimals. So, example 1, we're going to apply the integer rules that we've already learned to numbers with fractions and decimals. Now, before we do this, I want to write over on the side of the paper here our rules when we are adding integers. So, if you have two numbers with the same signs, remember you are going to add. And if you have opposite signs, you are going to subtract. And in both cases, you're going to keep the sign of the larger. This is step 1, step 2. Now, the reason I write that is because that's what we're going to do for all of these questions. So, first one says find the sum of 6 plus -2 and 1/4. So we're going to follow our adding rules. The first thing we're going to do is find the absolute values. Now, typically we just do this in our head. We just say this is 6, this is 2 and 1/4. All right. They want us to officially show that. So the absolute value of 6 is 6. The absolute value of -2 and 1/4 is 2 and 1/4. Now, the reason it says to subtract here is because look at this. We have a positive number and a negative number. And according to our directions, opposite signs means we're going to subtract. So 6 minus 2 and 1/4. Now, I taught you in the previous lesson that whenever we have mixed numbers, we're going to change that to improper fractions. So 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9/4. Now, since we're doing fractions, let's change this 6 to a number with a denominator of 4. So that would be 24. Now we're going to do leave, change, change since we're subtracting. So that's going to be 24/4. Leave that. Change it to adding and change 9 to -9. Now we have opposite signs. We're going to subtract. 24 minus 9 is 15/4. 24 is bigger, 24 is positive. Okay, so we get 15/4. Now, if you want to convert that back, 4 goes into 15 3 times with 3 left over. So our answer would be 3 3/4. The bigger number is 6. The bigger number is positive. So our answer would be 3 3/4. All right, exercise 1. Suppose a 7th grader's birthday is today. She is 12 years old. How old will she be, or was she 3.5 years ago? So let's write an equation to model that. So right now she's 12, and we're going to subtract 3.5. So let's change these to improper fractions first. So 12 minus, this would be 7/2. Let's change 12 to 24/2. So 24 minus 7 gives us 17/2. 2 goes into 17 8 times with 1 left over. So she would have been 8.5 years old. All right, next page. What if we're doing something like this where we have -5.5 minus a -8? All right. So first thing we're going to do is change it all to improper fractions. So this would be 10/11/2, and it is negative, so make sure you have that negative sign. Minus, we're going to change 8 so it has a denominator of 2, which would be 16/8, and that's also negative. Now we're subtracting, so we're going to do leave, change, change. Follow your adding rules. Opposite sign, subtract. 11 minus 16 is, or 16 minus 11 is 5. 16 is bigger. It's positive, so my answer is positive 5/2. You can change that back into a mixed number, and you get 2.5. All right. We are going to continue using our adding rules and subtracting rules to practice using with fractions and decimals. I would like you to try A through E on your own. When you're done, go ahead and press play and make sure that all of your answers are correct. So go ahead and hit pause now. All right, so part A, we are going to add these two numbers. Let's change these all to improper fractions. This is a denominator of 4, so this is going to be negative 24 over 4 plus, that's 21 over 4. So opposite sign, subtract, you get 3. 24 is bigger, 24 is negative. So my answer is negative 3/4. All right, we are subtracting, so we're going to do leave, change, change. 7 plus 0.9 would be 7.9. All right, now we have a decimal and a fraction. You can't have both in the same equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to change them both to decimals. You could change them both to fractions too. That would still work. So 1/2 I know is 0.5. So it's 2.5 plus negative 0.5. Now I have opposite signs. I have opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract. 2.5 minus 0.5 is 2. 2.5 is bigger, so my answer is positive. All right, part D, negative 1/4 plus 4. All right, so I'm going to take negative 1/4, and I'm going to add, this is going to be 16 over 4. Opposite sign, subtract, so 16 minus 1 is 15. 16 is bigger, and 16 is positive. 4 goes into 15 3 times with 3 left over. All right, so I have 1/2 minus, let's change that to a denominator of 2. So leave, change, change. 1/2 plus 6/2 is 7/2, which would be 3 1/2. All right, so let's start taking that concept and applying them to word problems. It says to write an equation for each, and then we'll actually solve. So Samantha owes her father $7. Owing her dad would be a negative 7. She got paid $5.50, so plus $5.50. So how much does she still owe him? So opposite sign, subtract. And if you want to go over to the side, that would be like $7. And we're going to subtract $5.50. That becomes 10, not 5, and 6. So that would be $1.50. 7 is bigger and 7 is negative. So she still owes him $1.50. All right, part B. At the start of the trip, a car's gas tank contains 12 gallons of gas. During the trip, the car consumes 10 1/8 gallons of gas. How much gasoline is left? So it starts with 12. We subtract out the 10 1/8. So let's change these all to improper fractions. We're going to make that a denominator of 8. So 12 times 8 is 96. Minus, this would be 81 over 8. So 96 minus 81 gives us 15 over 8, or 1 7/8. A fish was swimming 3.5 feet below the water surface at 7 a.m. So 3.5 feet below would be negative 3.5. 4 hours later, the fish's depth was at a depth that is 5 1/4 feet below where it was. So we're going to subtract 5 1/4. So let's change these to improper fractions first. So this would be negative 7 over 2 minus, this would be 21 over 4. Let's find common denominators first. So we're going to make them 4. This would be negative 14. That stays 21. Now, of course, we have to leave the first fraction, change it to adding, change it to its opposite. So same signs means you're going to add. So that would be 35. 21 is bigger. 21 is negative. 4 goes into 35 8 times with 3 left over. So he is now at negative 8 3/4. All right, that is it for the lesson. The problem set is the 4 problems, I'm sorry, that follow this lesson. Good luck.